formal welcome later. It is just for introduction of.
Yes.
Shall we start?
Aditi ji, if you can please display. Yeah. Over to you, Tapasvi ji.
Yeah. Jai Jinendra one and all. I, Tapasvi Lal Diora, National Chief Secretary of Jito Professional Forum, welcome you all on a bright Sunday morning for a bankers roundtable session on a very relevant topic in today's scenario, that is financial businesses to survive, revive and thrive. Before we start the program, let's all recite the pious Navkar mantra. I request everyone to join us for Navkar mantra. Aditi ji, please play the Navkar mantra. Thank you, Aditi. May I now request our ever smiling, our torch bearer, the director in charge of Jito Professional Forum, Shri Milind Shah, to address the gathering. Milind bhai.
Thank you, Tapasvi ji. आवाज किसका?
Milind bhai, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Yes. I welcome our chairman Surajji Mutha, Vijayji Bhandari, our vice chairman Mahavirji Parasji, and our secretary Hitesh Bhai Doshi, and our zone chairman, Mumbai zone chairman, with whom we have done this program. His chairman Prithviraj Kothari, who is a very well-known personality, and zone secretary Manish Bhai. I also welcome Himanshu Bhai, Anil Bhai Jain from JITF, Hemant Bhai Jain from JITF. And our entire JPF team, all zone chairman and board of directors. JPF started taking shape right from a Goa meeting, which was under aegis of Shantilalji and Satishji. Now JPF is laser focused on deliverables. JPF is committed to build the bridge between our society and the corporate world and other professionals. This will bring tremendous value to all the stakeholders in our community and even to the professionals. We have people from Wall Street to Dalal Street. We have people from Silicon Valley to startups to our own incubation GIIF. We have people from health to wealth. We have people who manages billions. We have people from IITs and IIMs. We have people from policymakers to influencers to implementers. We have people right from White House to PMO. So that's why the Jain professionals are very, very important, sitting in a sweet key positions globally. JPF is a network of passionate professionals. JPF is a network of ideas. JPF is a network of creators. JPF is a network of collaborators. JPF is a network of intelligence. JPF is a network of thinkers. JPF is a network of wisdom and, most important, trust. So here we are. And the most important factor, that the trust which prevails among the entire professionals here in JPF, that will definitely drive the deliverables, and we are here to make the difference to the society at large and all the stakeholders in this forum. Thank you so much. Over to Tapasvi ji.
Thank you, Milind bhai. I also request Shri Prithviraj Kothari, Zone Chairman Mumbai, also known as the Bullion King, to say a few words. Over to you, Prithviraj. Prithviraj, request you to please unmute yourself.
Okay, now hearing?
Yes.
Yeah. Jai Jinendra and Sadar Pranam. I would like to welcome our respected panelists and speakers, Sri Pallav Mohapatra ji, Sri P.R. Rajgopal ji, Sanjay Srivastav ji, Kamlesh Chaudhary ji, Sunil Chauhan ji, Suman Chaudhary ji, and moderator convener Sri Ashok Ajmeraji. Friends, thanks a lot for the joining us this morning. Before we begin this webinar, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to all of you who sincerely committed to this event to make it a success. This event would have been impossible without the support of each and everyone. As we all aware how the things have changed post-COVID. Economic engine come to the halt, but our government was quick in assessing and addressing problem within its possible limits. The stimulus package was announced with the various schemes like restructuring of loan and emergency credit guarantee scheme. Today we have a very experienced and invaluable panel from our banking industry with us on this webinar to improve our understanding what is in their scheme for us. One of the most factor in a relation between any bank and its customer is trust. And a Jain International Trade Organization, almost having 15,000 members in the same community and having corpus of approximately 400 crore rupees. Without taking much time here, I would like Mr. Tapasvi ji to take on from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Kothari ji. I now take the opportunity to introduce the young and dynamic chairman of Jito Professional Forum, Shri Ajay Bora, to address the gathering. I call him young, not because of his age, but because for his energy levels. Over to you, Ajay ji.
Yeah. Thank you, Ajmera ji. Thank you, Tapasvi ji. It's a great honor and a pleasure, a privilege to be here today on Sunday morning. So being Sunday and having the accomplished bankers with us, senior ranking bankers who really control billions of dollars here, I wouldn't stand too much between the bankers and our members. So let's move on to the real core of the program, which we are here for, the Bankers Roundtable. Now, money is the raw material for most of the businesses. Nothing happens. It's the hemoglobin of our economy, and more so in the uncertain times. So what are the things we can do? How can we work with the banks and go through this phase of uncertainty? Let's listen in directly from the bankers themselves. To take our proceedings forward, we have our convener for Jito Professional Forum. He's the convener for banking and financial services, a veteran financial services personality, and the anchor for Jito Professional Forum and Jito at large. Over to you, Ashok ji Ajmera. Ajmera ji? Ajmera ji, are you there?
Yes.
Yes, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Ajay ji.
Yes.
Jai Jinendra, friends, and welcome to all. Prithviraj ji, Milind ji, Ajay ji, all our office bearers, directors of Jito Apex, our keynote speaker Pallav Mohapatra ji, our all panelists. Welcome to you all this fine morning, Sunday morning. Friends, all of you are aware that, you know, the pandemic, this COVID-19 has created havoc. It's a once in a 100-year kind of an event. And everyone, all businesses, industry, everyone has suffered. The whole economy has suffered, not only in India, but globally. And in India, but for the government support, but for the schemes which are issued, you know, which are released by the Reserve Bank of India under the government's instructions and directions through all our bankers who are sitting here, the pain would have been intolerable, beyond our tolerance level. And today we have assembled here to discuss about those very plans, schemes, benefits, concessions, which are given to business and industry basically to not only survive, but strive and thrive. And for that, I mean, what a better panel it could have been than we have today. And let me tell you, friends, all of you will get most of the answers of your queries because we have limited time now left of only almost hardly about 1 hour and 15 minutes left. in the entire discussion and question answers. And I'll be seeking your pardon if we exceed by 10-15 minutes our 12:30 deadline, because the questions will be many. And we will try that we answer, all our bankers answer all your questions and queries. To set the ball rolling, I would first invite our keynote speaker. Friends, we are very fortunate to have a seasoned banker with over 37 years of experience as our keynote speaker on this very important topic today. Having joined the country's largest bank, State Bank of India, in 1983 as the probationary officer, he went on to become its deputy managing director in charge of Stressed Asset Resolution Group. Considering his vast experience and varied experience in banking, the Government of India appointed him as the managing director of Central Bank of India in September 2018, the post which he continues to enjoy till date. Yes, friends, he is none other than Shri Pallav Mohapatra, our keynote speaker this morning. But before I invite him, let me tell you, in the earlier stint in State Bank, Shri Mohapatra held various positions as the CGM, New Delhi Circle, Vice President SBI California, Los Angeles, MD SBI Custodial Services, Chief Executive Officer SBI Cards, and many other positions as a full-fledged, wholesome banker. With this, ladies and gentlemen, I present before you our keynote speaker, the banker par excellence, Shri Pallav Mohapatra. Welcome to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Ajmera Saab. Good morning to all of you. And I'm really grateful to the JPF, that is Jito Professional Forum, for giving me the opportunity to interact with you. I don't call it a keynote address. It is basically what I understand about the economy and the economy, how it went through during this difficult phase. What were the initiatives and the measures taken by the government as well as Reserve Bank of India to basically reduce or mitigate the pressure on the economy and help all the stakeholders to take the economy forward. So if anyone wants to interrupt in between and ask the question, he is most welcome to ask the question. There is no issue on that. Or if they want to wait till the completion of my address or the completion of the panel discussion, and after that, if they want to ask the question to me, I am open to respond to that to the best of my knowledge. So to start with, sir, it was really very, very unfortunate and unexpected that when this virus hit the entire world. The economy of our country was not going through a very good phase even before this virus hit our country. But it became a double whammy when the pandemic issue came up. When this pandemic hit our country, so there was no option for the government but to basically go for the lockdown. Economy not doing well, then the lockdown, where definitely there was a major impact on the economy. So now it was left to the government and the regulator for the banks and government to come out with some initiatives, how to help during this particular phase and how to basically continue with the measures even when the lockdown will be lifted and the economy is to be basically supported after this pandemic really goes out. So everyone knows that how the global economy was hit. It was not only India, across the world, even in the developed countries, the GDP started falling. And the expectation for 2021 across the globe is that there will be a negative growth in GDP. In our country, as per the definition of the recession, we have already hit that recession because there were 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth. But the light at the end of the tunnel in case of Indian economy is that the recovery from the I would say, high frequency numbers which are coming appears, it gives the indication that the recovery in the economy in India is taking a faster pace than most probably the other economies across the world. Now, the question here is that, that how this economy, when the world economy was not recovering as speedily as the Indian economy, what was the reason behind that? What I strongly believe is the reason behind that is only the steps taken by the Government of India and the Reserve Bank of India at the right time. Now, when we say that whether the lockdown was introduced early or later, or so, these are the point of I feel unnecessary discussions and debates. But the question is, if the measures and the initiatives are taken, and these measures and initiatives are pushed by the statutory authority, that is government, and the regulatory authority, that is the Reserve Bank of India, that helps a lot to push the economy. First, I will go through some of the measures which have been taken by Government of India, and then I will tell you some major initiatives taken by Reserve Bank of India in helping out this economy, which was going through a very, very tough time. Now, overall, I will put the entire the initiatives taken by Government of India under the name Atmanirbhar Bharat. That means making the country self-reliant, because with the global economy suffering, now if we depend ourselves on the other economy to boost our economy, then it becomes really very difficult. So that's the reason that Government of India coined this word of Atmanirbhar Bharat. Now, under this Atmanirbhar Bharat, especially for the bankers and for the, I would say, the industrialists, and especially those who are from the MSME sector, the very, I will say, the most important scheme which was introduced and which was very bold scheme, as per me, was the Emergency Credit Line Guarantee Scheme. Now, this Emergency Credit Line Guarantee Scheme, which was introduced for the first time, which is version 1. So there, the MSMEs, first they said that those where the default as in February was for 30 days, then they took it to 60 days. Earlier, it was basically up to 25 crore. That means from the loan taken from the banking industry, 25 crore. Then they increased to 50 crore. The total turnover was 250 crore. And there, as per the scheme, it was opt out. That means if any MSME borrower, he doesn't want to avail of the scheme, he has to give in writing that I don't want to avail of this particular scheme. Otherwise, the scheme was to be given, or this facility was to be given by the banks to the MSME borrowers. What was the facility? Facility was very simple. That 20% of the outstanding in the fund-based limit as on 29th of February will be given in the form of emergency credit line. And this particular credit line will be fully 100% guaranteed by Government of India. Now, just think from the MSME point of view, they are getting 20% additional loan. Now, this loan was also at a very, very cheap rate. Now, getting additional funding facility at a cheap rate to basically take care of the issues which the borrower was facing, or the industrialist was facing during that difficult time. And that too, and from the banker point of view, the entire amount the bank gives, there is a zero risk rate. And there is a zero capital deployment on that particular amount which the bank gives under this particular scheme. Now, when we say that the capital is really scarce and is really very, very expensive, and there is a loan which is given and there is no capital to be deployed on that, and reasonable rate of interest or the return is earned by the bank, what scheme can be much, much better than this? So this, what I feel, was the most important scheme which was introduced by the Government of India. Then this was followed by the second version of ECLGS, which was linked to those the stressed sectors identified by Kamath Committee. And there the total exposure was where this facility can be given was from 50 crore to 500 crore from the banking sector. So that expanded the scope of this particular scheme. And just think of that the government is willing to give the 100% guarantee on that, even if, suppose, there is a 15% hit on this particular amount. And so 15% of, suppose on an average, both ECLGS 1 and ECLGS 2, if suppose there is the total exposure is say 3 lakh crore or something, and there is a 10% hit, so how much the government has to basically pay out? There was a lot of discussion that in USA, the regulator is directly pumping in the money. The UK, the government is pumping the money. So why people don't basically say that here also the government of India is pumping in the money? They have asked the bank to give the loan, but they have given the 100% guarantee for that. The next important scheme, which I think is very close to the heart of our Honorable Prime Minister, is Swanidhi. This is for the street vendors. Now, just think of, during this lockdown period, no one was moving out of their house. What happened to those street vendors? The khomcha wala, the chai wala, the vegetable vendor. So they lost their basically source of income. And when they lost their source of income, how to basically bring them back, not only for their own livelihood, but also bring them back into the mainstream, for which the PM Swanidhi scheme was introduced, where the loan amount, maximum loan amount of 10,000 can be given. And this is to be, I think, this is to be repaid by the borrower within 1 year time. It is also guaranteed, but not 100% guaranteed. But the best part of this particular scheme was that these vendors, normally laymen will think that how to basically identify these vendors, what is the KYC for these vendors, but these vendors were registered by the local bodies, and these local bodies gave their registration number to these vendors. Based on that only, the loan was given by the banks. In addition to that, it was also pushed that these street vendors also use the digital payment mode, that is having the UPI QR code on their whatever stall they have, so that the payment process is faster. There is no need of having a smartphone changes to basically ensure that the payment is not blocked at any point of time. And another scheme which was introduced by the government, that was for the subordinate debt for stressed MSME. So there the government planned that around 20,000 crore will be involved. Similarly, the other schemes were introduced like concessional credit boost to the agriculturists by giving them the Kisan credit cards. So lot of schemes, and the total I think works out both in the version 1 and version 2 around, I think, more than 30 lakh crore, and that's not a small amount. When this 30 lakh crore, through whatever means, goes into the economy, just think of how the boost to the economy, which was really struggling to come out, and it was double hit on account of this pandemic, how this 30 lakh crore is going to help the economy to come back. I think with the banks taking active participation in taking forward these schemes, most probably these schemes with Government of India giving the full support, and these schemes being introduced by the Government of India, was one of the major factors for the speedier recovery of Indian economy. I'm quite sure that whatever we had gone through in the first 2 quarters, the next 2 quarters are going to be much, much better than the first 2 quarters. And next financial year will be definitely much, much better than this financial year. There was also, government also took onto themselves that, that it is not only the banks who are lending, the NBFCs are also lending. Now, how these NBFCs during this particular period, because when RBI introduced the moratorium and deferment of interest, this applied to the NBFCs also. That means their customers were not getting the repayments in time. When their customers were not paying the installments in time, so their cash flow was being hit adversely. Now, during that particular period, normally the banks would have been a little bit shaky in giving additional support to these NBFCs, but there, for the NBFCs as well as for pool buyout, Government of India came out with a partial credit guarantee scheme, version 2.0. The earlier version was only for the pool buyout. This time it was pool buyout as well as giving the loan in the form of bonds to the NBFCs. They came out with a corpus of 45,000 crore. And in this also, and where in case of the pool buyout, the guarantee was 10%. In case of investment in the bonds issued by the NBFC, the guarantee cover was 20%. And I think most of the banks, public sector as well as private sector bank, actively took part in this partial paid guarantee scheme. The numbers, I will not go into the numbers, how much has been, if there is a question, then I can give the number to that. But how much has been basically given under PM Swanidhi, how much has been given under ECLGS, how much has been given under the trade boost to farmers under that PM Kisan, how much has been given under the partial credit guarantee. So this is basically on the part of the Government of India that they came out with, I will say, n number of schemes so that to help the economy. This also included redefining the MSME, the revised definition of MSME, and also making certain procurement by all and sundry from the MSME sector so that the turnover of MSME can go up. Now, coming to Reserve Bank of India also played a very, very important role, and that too very, very timely. They came out with their initiatives. Now, when the lockdown was announced, I think in the third quarter of March, RBI, if I remember correctly, 25th of March or 27th of March, the governor of RBI made the announcement that those the loans which were SMA 2 as on SMA 2 or SMA 1 or SMA 0 as on 29th of February, there will be a moratorium for 6 months up to August. That means they will these accounts will not slip into NPA. They also further added to it that even if any account which has slipped as on 31st March out of that, so the banks can take the benefit of not downgrading those loans by making additional provision of 5% in March and 5% in June. That came, why I'm saying this, that came as a big support to the bank, because when the banks are making the provisions, they are taking the money out of the capital. When they are taking the money out of the capital, the remaining capital may not be sufficient basically to feed to the industrial sector or to the services sector or to the economic sector by giving the loan to them. So this was a major step. This was the first major step which was taken by RBI. The second major step what RBI took was that as per earlier definition, if there is any change in terms and conditions of the existing sanction, that particular account is to be, it will be treated as restructuring and it is to be downgraded. But RBI came out with the ease of working capital, and they said that if you change the margin, if you change the cover period, so if you do some interchangeability, so those accounts will not be downgraded to NPA, will not be treated as restructuring, but the banks have to ensure that this is brought back or restored to the previous terms and conditions by 31st March 2021. That was a big support. That think of any MSME, if we are talking about MSME, this applies also. This applies to all the sectors. Now, during this particular pandemic period, when the unit is not able to basically run at the capacity, it will generate some profit. Now, if there is a margin of 15% on raw material, 20% on the finished work in progress, and say 20% on the finished goods. Now, when there is no margin or the margin is not sufficient, from where he will get the money basically to meet this margin to avail of the limits. In that case, if the banks reduced those margins on their own, and it will not be treated as a restructuring, there will be no additional pressure of additional provisioning to be made. So this helps the bank, this helps the activity or the industry also. Then RBI came out with another initiative that the banks can borrow under a long-term repo operation. That means they can borrow at this rate, at the repo rate. At that time, I think when they came out with the scheme, most probably that repo rate was 4.4%, and they can repay in 3 years' time. That means giving a longer term to the bank for the repayment at a lower rate of interest, so that they can use this money to lend. So this is basically infusion of the liquidity into the bank's books. The second scheme, again, as partial credit guarantee was introduced in version 2, was introduced to help the NBFCs also. So RBI came out with another initiative of TLTRO. That is term, long-term, it is TLTRO. I think right now I'm not getting the full form of T, but this is also long-term reverse operations. There it was said that if you raise the money under this can be used only for the deployment in can be used for investment in the bonds of rated companies. Now they realized after that the banks were definitely, because if this is for the rated companies, the banks will only give will subscribe to the bonds of highly rated companies. So then RBI came out with the TLTRO 2.0, where they fixed that this much percentage should go below investment grade, this much percentage should go to the micro unit. So they defined that, but unfortunately that did not pick up, and I don't think that any investment or any availment of TLTRO 2.0 was done. After this, and the TLTRO, the benefit was that if I invest as a banker, if I invest in the bonds of NBFC, then this investment in the bond, which is basically the NCD, and also if I have given the loan, all these together are classified under, are to be governed by the large exposure framework norm of RBI. But RBI said, when you are doing this, so this would be out of the limit given for the large exposure framework. So the banks were given some more room to basically invest in this without being bothered that it is exceeding the large exposure framework. RBI also said that if you are basically raising the money under TLTRO and giving investing in the bonds of NBFCs, then it will not be counted for that 25% limit under the hold to maturity STM category. So these are the various schemes which were introduced, and finally RBI came out with the scheme of restructuring, which was August 6th, and for those 26 stressed sectors plus the health sector. And there they have said, so this is going to be the guideline. And there they have said that if you are doing the restructuring, first, it will not be downgraded. Otherwise, normally, whenever a restructuring is done, then the account is first downgraded. So the banks get the benefit of not downgrading those accounts to NPA, but there will be some additional provisioning in case of corporate and retail, where instead of 5%, the provisioning requirement is 10%. But for the MSME, they kept it at 5%. Now just think of RBI repeatedly supporting the MSME. They first came out for the restructuring of MSME without the downgradation into NPA in first time in January 2019. Then they came February 2020, and now they have come out in August 2020. So February 2020 scheme for the restructuring of MSME is subsumed into the August 2020 scheme. I think with all these and the support being given to the economy and the way the banks are also, I will say, taking keen interest in doing the financing under these schemes, where they are also getting the benefit of lower risk weight or getting the benefit of the benefit of the guarantee from the government, getting the benefit that they are not basically bound by the limit they have to maintain under hold to maturity. All those things are going in the right direction. But what I will request is, because this is the time, as a banker with 37 years of experience, this is the time when all the stakeholders in the economy have to support the economy. Supporting the economy means what? Basically, the money going into the manufacturing, services, trade sector, so that through the recirculation of the money, build up of margin, so the economy will come back. Now, here is the time. If we look at basically that the financials of the company have been impacted, definitely the financials of the company will be impacted. Now, if the financials of the company have been impacted, I'm sorry, because our dear colleague from Acute is there from the rating agency. This is my question to the rating agency is that this is not the normal time when the rating is to be done as per the normal benchmark. Now, here what happens is, I will give you one example. Airlines. Now, during this lockdown, whether the airlines was responsible for zero revenue, then why the rating of these airlines should be downgraded? Now, during this 4 months, 5 months, whatever was the period where when flights were stopped by Government of India and also world over for the right reason, are they responsible? Similarly, in case of retail franchise. Now, any retail franchise in the country during the lockdown period, when there were restrictions on the movement of people, how they will be able to basically maintain the turnover, whatever they were doing earlier. Now, the question here, even I will ask to the analysts also. Earlier, analysts were basically, whenever they were doing the analysis of the results of financials of the banks, they used to see the NPA plus restructured accounts percentage. Now, sir, if the same thing is continued by the analysts, definitely the motivation with which the lenders are going forward, that will be impacted. So what I strongly believe is, I'm not saying that we are doing whatever we should do in 100% cases, but we are trying to do whatever is the best for the economy as of today. If any portion, any segment in the banking industry is not doing it, so they should be pulled out. Yes. If any industry or any company which needs the money as of now for the genuine purpose and the lenders are not coming forward, then the lenders should be pulled up. But at the same time, this is not the normal time for doing the analysis based on the normal models.
Yes.
So this is the only thing at which I will end my address. If anyone has any question to be asked now, fine. And this was my own version. This was
thanks a lot, sir, for giving. Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mohapatra sir, for giving this very broad overview of whatever the concession benefits schemes given by the Government of India and Reserve Bank of India. And the last point which you picked up about the rating, yes, it's definitely a matter of, I mean, great thinking is required into it, that why the rating should be affected when the people, I mean, the kind of things which like COVID-19 was not in the hands of the businessmen. Anyway, thank you very much, sir. Thanks for sparing your valuable time. Kindly remain with us.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
With this, my dear friends, I would quickly introduce you our panel so that we can go for the panel discussions, and there we can talk a little more in detail about every of these schemes and what are the benefits to the businessman and how you can derive those benefits. So my first panelist, I would like to introduce as a rare distinction of being the executive director of 2 public sector banks. Can we spotlight Mr. Rajgopal? Yes, first of the Allahabad Bank from March 2019 to March 2020, and presently of Bank of India from March 20 till date. Yes, Shri P.R. Rajgopal. Before joining Allahabad Bank as an executive director, Mr. Rajgopal worked in Union Bank, and his last posting there was of general manager. Over his long banking career, he virtually worked in almost every department of the bank, gaining rich experience of banking. Please join me in welcoming our first panelist, Shri P.R. Rajgopal. Can we spotlight him, Mr. Rajgopal, please? The host.
We are unable to locate him by that name.
Okay, we have our.
So we cannot see.
I have great pleasure in introducing our next panelist, Shri Sanjay Srivastava, who is the Chief General Manager of State Bank of India, heading the Credit Policy and Procedure Department, CPPD. He also heads the green banking cell of the bank and doing a lot of work in this particular cell also. Mr. Srivastava has a wide experience, vast experience of 30 years in the bank, in which he held various positions in the functional areas like SME and trade finance sector, large value credits, international banking, and credit policy information, formulations rather. Please welcome Sri Sanjay Srivastava.
Welcome, sir.
Welcome you, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
Our next panelist is Shri Kamlesh Kumar Chaudhary. Can we have Chaudhary Sahab? Yes, the General Manager and Zonal Head of Maharashtra and Goa of Bank of Baroda. Shri Chaudhary has vast experience of over 35 years, during which he handled from the branch operations to the credit head, SME head, regional head, and now the zonal head, stationed at Pune. By qualification, Chaudhary ji is CIIB and MCOM and has gone through several certification courses. He is the taskmaster and remained the best performer wherever he was. He is also the recipient of Certificate of Excellence by CMD for the business achievements. We welcome Shri Kamlesh Chaudhary ji.
Welcome, sir.
And our next panelist is Shri Suman Chaudhary, who is the Chief Analytical Officer of Acuité Rating and Research Limited, about which Mr. Mohapatra was talking. He is heading its rating and research verticals. Acuité Ratings commenced operations in 2005 and has rated over 8,400 small, mid and large corporate enterprises and 50,000 SME ratings. Suman has an extensive experience of over 24 years in credit rating and credit risk management. Prior to Acuité Rating, he has worked in 2 largest rating agencies in India, CRISIL and ICRA, for around 18 years, where he has been in the analytical leadership role. He has also worked as a group head in the credit risk management group of the ICICI Bank, and also overlooking the sectors, both SME and corporate portfolios. And now the important part of his introduction is coming, my dear friends. Mr. Chaudhary is an MBA from IIM Kolkata and also an IITian from Kharagpur, a very rare qualification. Let's welcome Shri Suman Chaudhary.
Sumanji and Ajmera ji, I have Ajmera ji, I have had the privilege to work with Sumanji, and welcome Sumanji. Ajmera ji, I have personally worked with him. He is a great resource. We are really fortunate to have Sumanji on our panel. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ajay ji and Ashok ji, for your kind words.
Welcome all the 4 panelists. But before we start the panel discussion, I think can we have all of them maybe together or in this, if the facility is there. And before that, I would just like to recognize a few people I could see, you know, when Mr. Mohapatra was talking. Our President Jito, Mr. Suresh Muthaji is there. Our JPF past chairman, director in charge, Ravi Jain is there. Our Secretary General of Jito, past Secretary General, Anil Jain. And now I think JATF President or Chairman. Anilji Shah is also there from Udaipur. KK Gupta ji, my friend, is there. We welcome you. Anil Ajmera ji, my brother Chandru Thadani, Ashok Shah ji, former Vice President of Jito, Mr. Manoj Mehta, Siddharth Bansali, my good friend Harminder. I could see some of them. We welcome you all here. And now we will take up to the panel discussion.
Yeah, and just 3 more names, Ajmera ji. Kantilal ji Oswal, the group, the zone chairman for rest of Maharashtra.
Yes, we can take them as and when we, in between, as and when you see them, we recognize their presence, please.
Sure. And Ajay ji Mehta also, the Chief Secretary, rest of Maharashtra zone. So we welcome you all. Siddharth Bansali has been the anchor for us and helped us promote this event. Thank you to all. Yes. Over to you, Ajmera.
So at this juncture, friends, we are running about 15 minutes out of schedule. But as I told you in the very beginning to the audience also, that please bear with us if we go beyond, you know, by 10 or 15 minutes. So welcome you all once again. And my, I mean, the scheme of things for this panel would be that there will be one common question initially, which can be answered by all the 4 panelists one by one. And then for say about 3 minutes or 4 minutes each. And then we have 2-3 questions, specific questions with them, which can be answered in about 2 minutes time each question. So my first, question which will be common for all to Rajgopal sir. Sir, Mohapatra Sahab spoke about various schemes, you know, which has come up. But our businessmen, business community and industry is more interested today to know about the main two schemes. One is this emergency credit guaranteed loan scheme, 1 and 2. One was, as was said, from up to say 25 crore first, then it was increased to 50 crore of outstanding limit. And now another one is from 50 crore to 500 crore. So this scheme. And secondly, the restructuring scheme, which has come up recently by way of, I think, this August 6th or 7th circular. So these are the 2 major schemes which are for the benefit of the businessmen and industrialists. Of course, you can add more if they are prevalent today. So on that, I would like to start with Shri Rajgopal ji, and then we can go in order with Sanjay Srivastav ji and Kamlesh Chaudhary ji and Suman Chaudhary. Suman ji, you can speak from the rating point of view. Thank you. Rajgopal ji, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ajmera ji. Thank you very much. Mohapatra Sahab, my senior and great friend of mine, has already to a great extent given the entire details about GECL 1.0 and GECL 2.0, as we call both these schemes in the banking, amongst the banking fraternity. And I see the MSME GMs there in Mr. Sunil and others over there. From Bank of Baroda, another friend of mine is also there from Bank of Baroda. They'll be in a better position to tell you about these schemes. But what I would say is, because if you want complete details about the scheme, you can always access the websites of the Bank of India, and it is available. And similarly, it is available from other websites also. Only one thing I would like to tell is, apart from the what is the advantage in this? If you see, we have got almost huge MSME base. We have got the second largest MSME in the world, in our country. And we have got around 6.33 crore MSMEs in this country, employing around more than 11 crore people. It's a huge, huge uh, economy on its own. So the problem with this is, this has actually faced a huge problem from 2016 onwards. So there are a lot of structural changes. GST brought out a serious structural shift, and there was a serious liquidity crunch that many of these MSMEs have faced. And then as a bolt from the blue, over all these problems that MSMEs were already facing in 16, 17, and 18, you have now COVID-19 pandemic actually. So this is a serious problem that we have today, and this is the right kind of seminar that or webinar that you're holding today to address many of the friends in the MSME fraternity. So I should thank you in the first place, and thank you both the forum as well as Mr. Ajmera ji for this initiative. Now, insofar as I would only like to add what Mohapatra Sahab has already told about the GCL 1.0 and 2.0. Now, the greatest advantage that MSMEs are getting today is the relaxed terms for assessment of credit. Now, what has happened is most of the MSMEs that we have seen, they have availed this 20% GECL credit, and each of the banks, including Bank of India, they run what is known as emergency credit scheme, where we have actually increased the cover period both for book debts as well as the stock. And we have also relaxed the current ratio criteria that the Tandon and Chore committees of the world have prescribed. And we have given relaxed criteria for current ratio. We have given relaxed criteria for net worth criteria. We have relaxed the debt service criteria. Most of the banks have done. I don't want to actually, kind of make this as a forum for propagating Bank of India scheme. I can always do it elsewhere. So, but basically what has happened is, Bank of India, Bank of Baroda, and Central Bank of India, my friend over there, we have done a wonderful work in terms of this one. If you see, GECL disbursements have been done maximum by public sector banks. We have given the maximum support to MSMEs. Despite that, what we are facing today is, the biggest problem today you have in MSME is non-receipt of the dues from CPSEs and government. So if that can be expedited, of course, the government has just now come out with a scheme where the dues of government is being, the government has been asked to, government departments have been asked to pay the dues to MSMEs, and that is getting expedited. But what at your level, especially the forums like you, who have been the advisors, consultants to many of the small businesses, what you should do actually at your level is actually push the facilitation council that has been constituted under the MSME Act. The unfortunate part of the whole MSME drive that we have been doing in this country is we don't bother about strengthening the facilitation council that is established under it is a statutory forum where arbitration award can be given, that award can be enforced, and we can recover money. So huge amount of debts are not being paid. So there is a lot of issues in terms of turnover for MSMEs. If turnovers are, receivables are not getting paid to MSMEs, whatever loan that we give, irrespective of whatever schemes we do, it is not going to help them. So that's where I see there is a need for a separate scheme where the MSMEs can come out. Of course, SIDBI, if you see, I would like to add to what Mohapatra Sahab has already told. SIDBI has come out as a special scheme on the TREDS platform for discounting the MSME dues. So what we can do is, we can actually should come out with a product where we can actually securitize many of these dues which are more than 90 days. And of course, seasoning is possible. We can see recoverability. Today, you have tools which can actually assess the recoverability of these receivables in the MSMEs. And if TREDS platform can pick up these receivables and discount it, the MSMEs liquidity problem today MSMEs are facing can to a large extent be solved. So what I'm suggesting here is, apart from these schemes that we already floated because government told us to float. Of course, it's good for the MSMEs. We should also come out with the schemes where we can actually discount the outstanding receivables of MSMEs, like SIDBI has done. The SIDBI is doing in a very, very small scale. They have allocated around 12,000 crores for this. No, we should actually take up this at a huge scale. Now you have around 2 lakh crores of receivables not trouble. So I am sorry that I completely deviated from what you have told me, but I thought it is very important for me to
no, sir, very valuable
so,
suggestion,
because
sir.
these other things, other things, of course, my colleagues over there from Central Bank of India and Bank of Baroda, they can take care of these schemes. So I am only looking at a macro level where you should boast it. Thank you very much. And
no, sir, you are continuing to be here, sir. A very valuable suggestion. And this is a very, very important suggestion which you gave, is that securitization of those debts of the MSMEs, because they are ultimately going to receive the money. It's only that the money is delayed. So it's a very good, I mean, people should think about it. I mean, all of us, and should work out something in this direction so that the cash flow of MSMEs can be improved. With this, may I request Sanjay Srivastava, sir. Sir, your basic points on these two schemes, you know, like one is the 20% loan under the credit guarantee schemes, and other one on the restructuring, the broad thoughts, and then we will come to the specific questions later.
Good morning and Jai Jinendra to all of you. Thank you, Ajmera ji, and I would like to thank Jitu Professional Forum for inviting me to this roundtable. My senior Pallav sir has already outlined how the economy has gone through in the last 10 months or so, and what RBI and Government of India parallelly in sync, a beautiful in sync efforts which both regulator and government have come up with. And we public sector banks, as Rajgopalan sir was saying, we have been in the forefront of implementing these steps of government or the regulator. Just one thing before I go on to your question. Normally, we in State Bank of India, we try to be slightly ahead of the curve. So even before maybe the lockdown was announced, we had a scheme called CECL. So we had a scheme of giving 10% additional funds to all our borrowers with a particular, who are not SMA2 or NPA on a particular date. And we did some 25,000 crores additional lending in that. Then we had a common CECL for all public sector banks, and then the GECL. Now we call it GECL1 and GECL2. I also remember what Tapasvi told in the very beginning, that money is the hemoglobin for all businesses. So that is the main ingredient which is required in these tough times. As nudged by RBI, what we did, as Rajgopalan sir also mentioned, we relaxed the assessment norms for this period, reduced margins, increased the cover period, and more than that, we made it look very simple. The thrust of government is also on ease of doing business. So for this period, we gave delegation to our branch managers and regional managers across the country to take decision on revising the drawing powers based on these reduced margins and increased cover period. That has been happening. The dispensation given by RBI on 27th March and again in April, that has been implemented. Now coming specifically to this GECL. Now, as was mentioned by both Rajgopalan and Pallav sir also, when banks are free of the burden of providing for additional capital, when government comes up with a guarantee scheme of guaranteeing loans up to rupees 3 lakh crores, the bankers are really free to lend. So the first scheme was for all who were not SMA2 or NPA on 29th February, and it was offered to all. So there, the borrower had to say, I don't want this. That was GECL1. There again, we said 20% of the total fund base outstanding would be given to the borrower at a very competitive rate. So, it was EBLR plus 100 basis points and government said the maximum could be 9.25%. And there the sanctions would be all loan sanction up to 31st March 21 would be covered, or till we exhaust the guarantee cover. And what we did, the tenor of loan for this additional would be 4 years from the date of first disbursement. There is a moratorium of 12 months, and repayment would come in 36 equal installments after moratorium. Now here, the whole public sector fraternity has done very well. We would have sanctioned around 5 loans to about 5.5. Recently, government came up with GECL2. Now, this GECL1 was for borrowers with limits up to 25 crores initially, and then it was extended to 50 crores. After all banks did, government came up with this additional scheme for specific sectors. Which specific sectors? So 26 sectors which were identified by Kamath Committee, which were severely impacted by COVID, and an additional sector of healthcare was added by Government of India. So for these 27 sectors, for borrowers with exposures from 50 crores to 500 crores, provided they are not, so I'll put it the other way around, provided they are standard or SMA 0, as on 29th February, you can get up to 20% of your fund base outstanding as on 29th February. Now, what do I get in this 20%? Is it only fund based? No. You can opt for fund based or non-fund based, both of it. Pricing is again very competitive. For MSMEs, it is linked to EBLR, and for others, it is linked to 6-month MCLR. So the final rate could be somewhere around 7.95 or 7.65.
Sorry to interrupt you, sir. Sorry to interrupt you. Just for the clarification of the audience, the 20% amount will be calculated based on only the fund-based outstanding limit.
Right.
But
right.
that 20% can be availed by way of fund-based or non-fund-based.
Very correct. Very correct.
Clear. Yeah. Okay.
Very correct.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. Here also we have a 12-month moratorium for principal. Now, if I take a WCTL, then the tenor of the loan is 5 years from the date of first disbursement. And if it is a non-fund based facility, again, you have to plan so that this additional fund-based, non-fund based facility is also either extinguished within these 5 years, or it gets converted to a regular facility after 5 years. And there's a difference in this scheme. The borrowers have to ask for it. You have to opt in. So what I believe all public sector banks would be doing, like we have done, we have identified our universe of borrowers. We have reached out to them with the scheme. And now they have to say, yes, we want this scheme. There's a very simple assessment. Yes, there is a small assessment, because when you say it could be fund-based also, it could be non-fund-based also, it entails some assessments. So there is a small assessment there. And here again, the disbursements have to end as on 30th June 21. So if you ask me, borrower has two options today. One, come straight away for this GECL2, take 20%, or the 6th August circular of Reserve Bank of India, which empowers banks to restructure their accounts. And post this restructuring, the account would not be downgraded as was the earlier scheme. There also, RBI has come up with very detailed guidelines what is to be done. It is there on our website. For retail customers, it is a different dispensation. In term loans, you could get a moratorium of up to 24 months. Your tenor could be extended by 24 months. You get a moratorium on your interest. If you are a working capital borrower, there again you could be getting benefits under this scheme. So here it's a choice to the borrowers. You want to come under the restructuring scheme or under this scheme. Take a conscious closed
at this juncture, Sanjay sir, I'll come back to you. We will again interact further on this. So I come now to Chaudhary Saab. Chaudhary Saab, you are basically handling the entire zone, you know, Maharashtra zone, Goa zone, and directly in touch with the customers day in and day out. So sir, what is your experience of your customers, SME, or even because your own powers are in crores, maybe up to 50 crore or so, and then you are handling even the head office cases coming through the zone. So what is your personal experience of people taking advantages of these schemes, and what is the practical difficulties which they are facing, and how you are, you know, facilitating that?
Good. Thank you. I am audible, na?
Yes, sir. Little more loudly, sir, please.
I express my gratitude to provide me this opportunity to speak something on this subject of GTO. Okay. So there are so many my senior leaders, Mohapatra sir and Raj Gopalji and Chavan Sahib is also there. So they are very experienced and learned person. So what Mohapatra ji told in nutshell, I should say, banks on deposit, a loan against banks on deposit. Every loan is being felicitated by this by providing some either additional facility or restructuring or relaxing in the margin norms. Every group of borrowers, say ATMs, when it is the street vendors, the agriculturists, the small farmers, micro farmers, marginal farmers, the manufacturing or the service sector, the micro units, the small units, the medium units, the large corporates. So each and every type of borrower, whether it is an individual, whether it is a partnership firm, proprietary firm, and limited liability partnership, or this private limited company or limited company borrowers, are listed or non-listed, all the borrowers and all type of borrowers and all type of activities are covered into this COVID pandemic resolution. Okay. So your basic question is what type of our experience as far as this MSME sector is concerned for providing this BGECL. BGECL बोले तो Baroda Credit Guarantee Line Scheme, because we are the Bank of Baroda people. So we Baroda. So no doubt our Srivastava sir has told clearly what is this scheme 1 and scheme 2, and we are having a very large portfolio of MSME and agriculturists as far as the Maharashtra is concerned. So for agriculturists, we are providing help to the SFGs by providing additional in the RBI framework 30,000 amount or maximum 5 lakhs to the SFG to felicitate them to come forward to by this whatever liquidity stuff is there. The agriculture, the PEX, the investment credit in the farm mechanization. So there are so many schemes. As far as the agro-based food and agro-processing units are concerned, they are covered into the MSME sector. No doubt we are taking into the classification in agriculture, but they are providing whatever provisions are available for the MSME sector. So in Maharashtra, particularly, you asked me for the Maharashtra or the Goa state, and I am heading. There are very positive response, and I am happy to inform that the asset class benefits are being provided by my entire 638 branches to the public directly. And there are a system that if the borrower do not want to avail, we have to take in writing from the borrower. Otherwise, we are accountable why we have not extended this facility to the borrower. As far as the schemes are concerned, there are really very great schemes in which there is no chance to convert the account into the NPA category unless and until we are not vigilant, or borrower, their fraud is not there, or the borrower is not absconded. There are two things are there. If the borrower is absconded, but in IRAC norms, the account was running in standard. So why it is so? Because the earlier he was absconded since last 3 or 4 or 5 months. So in that case, we are unable to provide him the whatever the facilities are there. But and if the fraud is taken place and it is accounted that there is no asset was created, in that accounts, other than all the accounts are covered, and our team, we are the delivering agency as far as the whatever RBI guidelines are there. We are the implementing agency. In certain cases, Bank of Baroda also came forward. No doubt, I should not say for only Bank of Baroda, but the pre-approved MSME loan for the non-credit availing current account holders. That is also that has been also introduced as a part of this for the COVID pandemic. First point. Second point, the already NPA classified borrower, as of March 21, we are here to give for the settlement, whatever good dues are there, whether that is a DB1 or DB2 at the rate of 100%, or it is a DB3 or the loss assets or the TW or technical write-off or TW or provisionally write-off account at the rate of 75% of book dues, and then we are able to make the refinance to them on the enhanced scale of net. So there are so many benefits we are providing as far as the RBI guideline is concerned, or as far as our banks initiations are concerned. So we are taking care, sir. As far as the scheme 1 and scheme 2, the BGCL, sorry, the credit guarantee line scheme are concerned, I want to add something, whatever my respected Sanjay Srivastava sir told, that no doubt, you have asked the question whether this on balance sheet item, okay, that is a fund based, we can grant the 20% in both the schemes, okay? But in
मैं एक वेबिनार में हूँ सर, में एक वेबिनार चल रहा है, मैं उसमें हूँ, तो बहुत बाकी एक बजे तक चलेगा.
SMA 0 or SMA 1 accounts are eligible in a scheme first. In scheme only SMA 0 accounts are eligible. We can grant the facility either in fund based or non-fund based. As far as the non-fund based is concerned, there is a margin requirement at the rate of 10%. As far as the fund base is concerned, there is no margin required. Whenever we are going to calculate the eligibility, the assessment, which is the tailor-made, we have to reduce already built discounting exposure from whatever eligibility there. That is only one thing which I want to add. Otherwise, my Srivastava sir has told in a very lengthy speech. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Very practical views and the experiences which you have shared with us. Now, Sumanji, I come to you. Yes, the main, the topic of discussion in the market today is that the government, the RBI, all the regulators want the people to come out of this problem. The pandemic was not in their hands. But why still the rating agencies are going so harsh and hard on them? I mean, the financials are deteriorated. There is no doubt about it. But where other areas the concessions are given by the banks, why can't the rating agency also can just write off this year, 2020, and rate as per 19 or maybe what is coming in 21? Just your answer on that, sir.
Sure. First of all, let me start by thanking Jito for giving these opportunities. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be part of this panel where we have Sri Mohapatra, Sri Rajagopal, Sri Srivastava and Sri Chaudhary, all esteemed bankers. And this is a very important subject that we are discussing today as we are recovering from an unprecedented pandemic. And the economy is recovering from that severe impact. It's very important for us to discuss the ways in which the economy can not only be revived, but also how can the economic momentum can be generated for the next 5 years. I think that is what the government and the RBI has been looking into very, very consciously and very proactively. Sri Mohapatra and all our esteemed panelists, the bankers, have already discussed some of the stimulus programs that the government and the RBI has already announced. My focus will be on, as Mr. Ashokji has requested, on the credit rating perspective. But before that, let me just give you a little perspective or outlook that we have on how it has gone in the current year for the economy. As you know that this as has been already said, that this pandemic is not a normal thing that has happened. And I'm sure even for the senior bankers, nobody has seen this kind of impact of an event on the economy for the so many years of their career. For me, it is an unprecedented event. All the analysts are seeing it for the first time ever in their career. So surely this needed measures and actions which has to be also of an unprecedented nature. And that is what, if you see from the beginning, while despite the lockdown, despite the economic disruption that has happened in India, for RBI, along with the coordinated action from the government of India, has been consistently announcing various measures. I would say if you really break down the measures into two fundamental parts, they are like this. One, they have tried to, they restructured or given a special dispensation, this is from RBI, to ensure that the liabilities are easily restructured with minimum pain to the banks and to the businesses. So as has been told by the esteemed bankers, that you, first of all, there was a moratorium, then you ensured that there is no downgradation of the account when you are restructuring. Then you have given a comprehensive restructuring framework RBI has given in August for one-time restructuring for COVID. So all these measures for a restructuring of liabilities has already been announced. Moratorium was a very significant measure. For 6 months. All the businesses had the option to avail for the moratorium. But let me tell you one very important part. When we are analyzing our portfolio of companies, around 30% of the companies that we rate, we have seen that they have not availed the moratorium. This shows that the health of the, even for some of the SMEs is still very good. And the perception generally is that the pandemic has impacted the entire economy. That's not necessarily true. We have seen that some of them have been able to maintain, maybe the businesses have got impacted to an extent, but their balance sheet is still very strong. So this is something that we need to know. Now, the other part is of the measure that has been taken is the funding, to ensure liquidity and funding. Now, what did government and RBI do? It took action in two parts. One, they ensured that so there is enough liquidity with banks, like as Sri Mahapatra mentioned, the targeted long-term loan repo operations. Through that, low-cost funding is available. So the system is awash with liquidity. Even today, the system has liquidity of 5 to 6 lakh crores, many of which is again parked in RBI on reverse repo. So that's RBI has ensured there is enough liquidity with banks to lend. Second, they also ensured a mechanism through which, as has been discussed, through a guarantee mechanism from the government, which is an indirect funding, one can say, through a guarantee mechanism, ECLGS, as we call it, Emergency Credit Line Guarantee Scheme, which started with 1.0 for SMEs and then extended to another 26 stress sectors and up to 500 crores of exposure of banks, which covers a large part of the economy. So funding has been also ensured. So both restructuring as well as funding for the businesses has been ensured through all these packages. Now, what does it mean as far as rating agencies are concerned? So let me tell you the approach that we have taken from the very beginning. Rightly so, that whenever any such impact happens, whenever any such economic disruption happens, and especially of this kind, it will have a very deeper impact on the business, right? Revenues will fall, profits may also fall, and naturally, if you go by the standard rating criteria, then naturally there is likely to be an impact. The way I can talk about our rating agency, our rating philosophy, the way our rating committee and we have seen it is, this is an unprecedented year. So we rightly said by Sri Mahapatra and others, we cannot look at it from a conventional perspective. To the extent that the guidelines allow us. So what we have done, and we consciously try to do in our rating committees, is not to take the financial year FY21 performance as a major rating driver. I want to clarify this. We are not taking FY21 financial performance as a reason for a downgrade. What we are going to do is to look at the likelihood of a revival in FY22. If the business is well positioned, if they are recovering now in the second half of FY21 and are going to go back to where they were in FY20 or FY19 and FY22, then our rating action, I can assure you, is very limited.
Great. Rajgopal ji,
I want to clarify this
from
point.
a rating.
I want to clarify this point, at least from our agency perspective. This is a point. The only thing that we look into is the liquidity position. And I can tell you, Ashok ji, that because of the schemes that has been announced, we see that the bankers are also supporting to the extent they are. And liquidity, wherever there was a problem, through this ECLGS, many people are now availing ECLGS scheme.
Okay, sir.
Because of that, the liquidity has been addressed to a large extent.
We will be directing our clients to you, sir, now. So with this,
that was not my intention. I just wanted to, talk about
this, my friends. We will go in between for a question round from the audience because as we overshot now by about 20 minutes, some of them might wanting to leave.
Please.
So for about 10-12 minutes, we will take a few questions, and then again we'll get back on some specific so as to end latest by 12:45.
Ajmeraji, I got some questions from the audience. Can I? Ajmeraji, I got some questions from the audience. Can I ask from
please,
the
please, Ajay ji, you can.
Ajay bhai, just a moment.
Yeah, Ajay ji, you go on.
Questions. While the discussion was going on, we have Himanshu bhai of Shraman Arogyam with us.
Sure.
And we have Vimal bhai Shah from Africa, as far as Nairobi, with us. Thank you for joining us.
Welcome everyone.
With us.
Sure. All the way from Africa, we have our member joining in from Kenya.
Any question?
Yes. So the first question is, we got from our members. Their view is that what is the advice the bankers can give them? That the schemes are on paper, but when some members are saying when they go to the banks ask them a lot of questions. So in terms of our members being prepared when they approach the banks, what are the 2 or 3 tips you can give them where, by which they can be prepared and have their kit ready to avail the benefits that everyone talked about? What are the tips for the business community?
Rajgopal ji, you will take it?
Either Rajgopal ji or Kamlesh ji or Sanjay ji.
I will ask Mohapatra sir to reply. He is the best person to reply. Very, very positive.
Mohapatra sir is there? Are you
there?
Yeah,
sir. Sir, please go ahead. Yeah.
Rajgopal, I think this is not fair. Okay. Since you said it. Sir, my answer to honorable member is, a respected member is, in case of ECLGS 1.0, which was opt-out, my direction, my instruction to the people on the ground is that unless they give it in writing that they don't want to avail this, no one has the right to refuse anything, right? So no need of any tips. They have 100% right. But what is happening is, I will tell you, because I am going through some of the complaints that they have refused. What people think is that if suppose from the same bank, he has availed the credit card. Now he has availed the credit card, the dues are overdue, it is NPA. And he is saying that he has already taken up the matter and the matter is still going on. Why this should be taken as a negative point for ECLGS 1. So in those cases, sir, I am very sorry because the scheme doesn't permit. And within the scheme, if everything is okay, then 100% in ECLGS 1, no one can refuse. One has the right. And if any branch manager is refusing, and from this forum, I am saying that at least in Central Bank of India, if it comes to my notice, he is going to be charged.
Sir, an extended question on this to Mr. Srivastava, sir, that it is seen generally in the experience of the businessmen and our clients that private banks are not encouraging much on this. So whether that amount proportionate amount of that can be given by their other consortium or in multiple banking by other banks? Sir, Sanjay sir?
See, when you are in a consortium, so we are talking about GCL2 or are we talking about restructuring?
GCL2, okay, yeah, up to 550 to 500, oh yeah.
So the banks would be giving 20% of their fund-based exposures only.
So it should be as per bank-wise. If some banks are not giving, then you cannot get it from the other bank, isn't it?
I mean the consortium members have to come in. You cannot.
Sir, Ajmera Sahab, I will endorse what Sanjay is saying. See, sir, this is a guarantee scheme. Now, how I can take over the portion of other bank? If I take over the portion of other bank, I will not be entitled for that guarantee which the government of India is giving. Government of India.
Rajgopal sir.
Yeah, that's correct. That's where the problem comes. See, what two things I would like to supplement to what my seniors have told, including Mr. Mohapatra and Sanjay from SBI. So what I would request all the businessmen who are going to bank for loan under GECL 1 or GECL 2 or emergency line of credit from the bank, or even a regular working capital limit that we are giving on the basis of relaxed criteria, what they should do is they should ensure that they are not banks. So that data creates a lot of problem. What is happening is it is the bureau data that the banks rely for the purpose of checking whether a particular borrower is entitled to loan under GECL 1, 2, or any other scheme that is in operation in the bank. Now, the bureau data is wrong, then there is going to be a serious problem. In this forum, I would like to tell my businessmen friends, they should ensure that the bureau record of credit history of their businesses as well as the individual credit histories are proper. Now, there are two ways of ensuring this. One is basically, what we do is we take loan, we deal with the bank. Now, there were good old days when businessmen used to approach us. I am talking of almost 25, 30 years back. The bank reconciliation statement, they will carry to the bank and they will fight with us, saying that ye entry kidhar se aa gaya, wo entry kidhar se aa gaya. That kind of direct involvement used to be there in the business people. They were not great people. I'm only talking, maybe your fathers and grandfathers would have actually done the businesses, but they were very clear and they used to carry the bank reconciliation statement along with them wherever they used to go. And they used to have a clear idea, kaun sa bank mein kitna loan liya hai, kitna overdue hai. That we have forgotten. One. Yeah. Two, today what is happening is there is a lot of data in the credit bureau that is going against you. You should be very, very careful and check your credit bureau record on a regular basis. So if you go to the bank for any line, so if you have this credit bureau record clear, then I don't think any bank can reject you. One thing.
Thank you, sir.
Another thing
Ajay
is, so far as
second question.
Yeah. Yes. There is one.
Your additional.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So there is another question from Prithviraj Kothari, Zone Chairman, Mumbai. He is asking the views of the esteemed panelist on the long-term or the medium-term view on the interest rates, prevailing interest rates, the long-term and the medium-term view of the panelist. With
your
that, after that, over to you.
Interest rates,
I am not good at.
Mahapatra sir?
Anyone, Subanji?
Yeah, of course.
Sir, okay, sir, go ahead.
Sir,
I'm sorry.
Sir, please, you first.
What I feel is that at least for another 2 or 3 bi-monthly announcement, there will be no increase in the policy rate. But after that, this is my assessment. I may be 100% wrong, and I have a logic behind that. After that, the interest may go up. Why? The reason is that the money now, liquidity is basically flowing into the system. When the liquidity is flowing into the system, it is spurring the demand. And this demand, which is not visible to that extent today, will be very clearly visible after 6 months or 7 months. And when this is visible, then the supply as such will not be able to match that type of demand, because there has been a subdued demand for around now 9 months. And when that particular volcano erupts, so the inflation may have adverse impact more than what is now, and most probably the policy rate will go up. This is my assessment. This is not any, I will say, not a public statement.
No, perfectly all right. So, Sumanji.
Yes.
Sir, Ashok ji, I would go with Pallav, sir. I think we have seen the rates coming to some sort of bottoms. And yes, I do see green shoots coming from this third quarter. If you see at the GST collections, if you see in the sales in the automobile sector particularly, things are improving. And as Pallav sir said, maybe 1 or 2 policy decisions, the rates may not increase. But going forward, yes, we could see higher rate reaching.
But sir, don't you think that it is a pent-up demand, you know, that for those 6 months, people couldn't buy the automobile. So now suddenly in these 2 months, do you think it will remain as a consistent in future months also to come?
Sir, Ajmera sir, what I said was that as of today, we are not seeing that much of a gap between supply and demand. Maybe because of some very good agriculture crop, and so the demand went up, prices went up, and the inflation, the CPI went up. But what I'm saying is, this pent-up demand, when this really comes out, so that demand will be more than the supply.
Okay.
And for that reason, after 6 months, I feel the rate of interest or the policy.
Yeah, Sumanji, you are to say something.
Yes. I agree with what Sanjay said and C. Mahapatra said. See, one of the biggest challenge for RBI today, and in fact, Mr. Das, Sridas has already referred to it. One of the biggest challenges in monetary policy management today is the inflation. If you look at the data of inflation, it is only last month, which is November, we saw that the inflation has slightly come down from being above 7%. It was hovering over 7% for the last few months. Last month, it came down to slightly less than that, 6.93. Means that inflation. So any further reduction, in our view, any further reduction in interest rates is ruled out for the time being. The question, it will be more an extended pause, as rightly said, for a few more months till the growth comes up. Once growth comes up, once the demand picks up, we believe inflation risk is going to be there. You are going to see high inflation continuing for some time. Maybe you will get relief during the winter months.
Chaudhary Saab, there is one question.
Sure.
On that, all said and done, but these people having taken the moratorium benefits or some other benefits are looked negatively when they go for future for top-up loans or further loans. The banker asks, have you taken the moratorium? If you're taken, sorry, for 6 months at least we are not going to consider any further request. What do you have to say, sir, on that? You are the head of the whole zone.
Sir, your question is really very right in this situation. What is going on as Chaudhary Suman Chaudhary were telling that the certain units, 30%, did not avail the benefits of this COVID pandemic when they are going to red there, okay? Likewise, what bankers are thinking, that if the person has availed the COVID benefit, whatever the moratorium or the deferment of installments are there. So first of all, the conservative bankers may think that he has availed this benefit, so that quality is not up to the mark, okay? It is a human tendency, okay? But simultaneously, our respected Mohapatra sir told that whatever benefits and whatever provisions are available in certain cases, that is an opt-out option is there. So we should not think like that. But in practical way, if the person, because the Indians are having that nature of savings, okay? So if the business is, whenever we are going to sanction a MSME proposal or the credit proposal, we are always, other than retail, we are always doing the stress testing, okay? If the 5% or 10%, the things are not under control, what will be the happening of this DSCR or the BEP level. We are always calculating.
Thank you, sir.
COVID pandemic, when there is a available of resources, if the person is having his own ability, he should not avail the moratorium. Because in this COVID one scheme, there is a cap of 3 lakh crore. So it will be exhausted by if the 3 lakh crore is over or the 31st March 2021 is over. So in order to felicitate the needy person, the real person who is not requiring this help, he should not avail it. That's why the bankers are asking the question.
Sir, on the same, I come to Sri Sanjay Srivastav ji, sir. There is one question. For all these schemes, what are the time limits? And on some of the scheme, which is December 31st is the time limit for sanction and 31st March is implementation. Don't you all bankers think that there will be some extension by Reserve Bank of India on all this? Because it has now become the major talk of the town and people need some time.
So a very pertinent question, Ashok ji. But first I'll answer the first part which you raised to Mr. Kamlesh. In our bank, we have a very robust redressal mechanism on our webpage. So even for GECL1 or the earlier dispensation of RBI or the restructuring norm, we have an interactive webpage where if anyone is not satisfied, you can go and raise your grievance. Okay. And this grievance, I will tell from my bank, will be handled at a pretty senior level. So if my branch manager or if my relationship manager has not acted as per the scheme of things, it will be, and there we say a timeline of 7 to 10 days where we'll come back to you and tell you what we are doing. The other thing regarding timelines, sir, yes, we have from the platform of IBA taken up with Reserve Bank of India on the restructuring part, because there the invocation was to be done by 31st December. We in our bank also took a margin of say 10-15 days and said the application should come to us by 24th of December. So Pallav sir would be more aware on that. We have taken up with RBI. We have taken with RBI for extending this timeline, and we are waiting for their decision on that.
Sir, here I think Sanjay Saab is right. We have taken up the matter with RBI. One reason what Sanjay is saying is definitely one of the reasons. The other reason is there is still a sort of the situation is fluid on account of that Supreme Court judgment. So because of that Supreme Court judgment, there is a lot of, I would say, doubt in the market, because now the vacation has started. So they have not given the order on that interim stay. So we have also put that as one of the reasons, that because since we never knew that there was going to be an interim stay on this, so you also allow us time for that. On the first, sir, what Kamlesh was saying, I will just add to it. Sir, my question is very simple. If someone has taken a moratorium, he is going to pay that at the end of, during the end of the term. But this deferral of interest, now if he is not able to pay during the 6 months, and then he will pay in the next 6 months before 31st March, and he wants additional loan also, whether the cash flow which he will be generating from the additional loan will be sufficient, not only to service the interest on the additional loan, but also on the deferral of interest which is converted into a term loan. So these are the questions. It is not as simple as that we will not give. But the question is that unless
Ajay, do you have any other question?
Yeah, no, well, yeah, we have a lot of questions, but I think we'll have to be careful about the timeline also. For Manish ji, our Chief Secretary, Mumbai Zone. Manish ji, do you have a question?
Yes. Just a moment. Vimal ji Shah wants to ask some questions.
Yes.
Sure. Please go ahead. Vimal ji, please go ahead. Welcome, sir. Yeah. Vimal ji is joining from Kenya, I think.
Yeah,
Vimal ji.
Vimal ji, please go ahead. Milind bhai, until...
okay. Now I'm unmuted.
Yeah, sir, please go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I think this is an excellent session. Thank you for the bankers. One quick question I have is for the MSMEs in East Africa also, they're talking about having an insurance wrap around it, because today the perception of risk is much, much higher for all businesses all across. And therefore, lending becomes a big risk. And I think a lot of times, even big corporates don't get lending. Is there any insurance wrap that you can bring in so that you can de-risk the model? Is that being looked at by insurance companies and banks working together? Thank you.
Yeah, can we?
Yeah.
Yes.
So see what there are 2-3 things that are happening in this Rajgopal here. See what?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
See, the credit insurance is something that that is yet to take off. That's a miscellaneous insurance that we are talking about. We have been talking about this on a continuous basis, and there is under active consideration of the government also. Of course, initially when we talked about this one, so the de-risking the credit risk that is there in the MSME is inherent. So we always talked about credit derivative market where we could actually hedge the credit risk in an effective manner for MSMEs. So then that was not possible. So we are now looking back and seriously looking at credit insurance. And maybe, DIGCC today, which has almost become defunct, which was earlier offering credit insurance for small amounts. So it will be revived. That's what the talk that is going on in the certain sections of the government. And most probably there will be companies will be interested in giving a credit insurance product for, especially if not for medium enterprises, small and micro enterprises, there will be a credit insurance going forward in say 2-3 years down the line. That's what I gather from the discussions I had with many of the government and IRDA guys.
We have 5 more minutes before we go for vote of thanks.
Ajmera Sahab, one point I want to say on this
yes, sir.
Insurance wrap to my friend from Kenya. Sir, in India, this credit insurance concept has not picked up. So as of now, we don't have credit insurance. We have credit guarantee, but not credit insurance. Now, the question in case of the credit insurance is, unless there is a very full developed market for the derivative, no insurance company will come out with the credit insurance product. Because unless they are able to swap, they will be making huge losses. During the global meltdown, the world as such saw that these derivative products went into exotic products and these were misused. So as of now, any credit insurance product which will come in the near future, I don't see. I don't know about East Africa, but unless government themselves come out with the credit insurance, it is going to be very tough for the private sector to come out with the credit insurance. This is my view.
Yeah, Ajmera ji, we have one question from the audience. That what's the question is for the panelists. What is the prospect the banks have for the bullion industry, and how would they view that going forward? The bullion industry.
About the bullion industry.
Yeah.
Sir, any one of you would like to take it?
Precious metals. Other question, yeah. I'll just read out 2-3 questions so then you can decide who wants to answer. The other question is, the one person, Deepak Bohra from KKG Zone, asking that these government schemes have the low rate now. What is the probability of the rates going up after the schemes get over? Then another question is that, for the transportation business, is there any bankers specific view? How would they view that? And the last question is, are there any schemes for the startups? So these are the 3-4 questions we have. And please feel free to take the turn and go before I think Ajmera ji calls for vote of thanks.
So first for bullion.
Ashok ji, I would like to take the last two. The one on startup and the one on transportation.
Rajgopal Sahab on bullion. Any view?
Since Sanjay has already exercised choice, I will answer the bullion.
Yeah. Yes.
So bullion is like this. What we, of course, we have been very active in the market in terms of bullion. Bank of India is one of the premier banks who is very active in bullion business. We have a very dedicated branch dealing with bullion customers across the country. So now what has happened is there is a pause because of this pandemic, and then we will review the whole situation in the bullion business going forward. We have not seen any revival in the bullion business as of now. There is no uptick in the bullion business. So we are just waiting. Maybe in the first quarter of 21-22, we'll actually look at it and then take a view on this. As of now, it is past insofar as our lending to bullion is concerned. So nothing much is happening in. So it will continue to be there for another 2 quarters to go. Yeah.
Sure.
Who is taking the second one?
I think Srivastavji is taking.
I wanted to tell the audience about the loan to startups. So RBI has now permitted loans to startups. Now startups as per the definition of the Government of India. So it should be not more than 10 years old. It should not have breached the turnover of 100 crores in any one of the years. So loans to these entities would be covered under PSL. So we are having our drawing board discussion, and shortly we'll come up with a policy of lending to startups, especially in MSME and agriculture segments. So we are working on that. So we should be able to tell you something on it shortly. Talking about transportation. So if you look at the Kamath Committee recommendation, logistics is one of the stressed sector. So they have their own prescription for the. So it is one of the 26 stressed industries. So the businesses would be getting the dispensation under the restructuring. No two questions on that.
And that interest rate now are low under the scheme. But
I wanted to take. See, our interest rates for MSMEs have been linked to EBLR. So the rate transmission would be very fast with the movements in repo rates. So for MSMEs, we have deliberately linked it to EBLR. MCLR, okay, there could be some time lag. So these are linked to EBLR repo rates. So the transmission would be sort of immediate. So even with the schemes getting closed, as the market moves, the rates would be transmitted.
Sir, somebody is asking for the construction industry, as now there is some offtake, our demand is also built up. So whether the bankers have changed their views for the real estate, commercial space or residential space, or some of these construction loans?
So sir, Ajmera ji, if you permit, one information for the respectable audience of this webinar. We from our bank, we have a scheme for funding the inventories. We launched it a few months back, 2 months back. So with certain conditions, if a builder has an unsold inventory ready to move in, we are going to fund that also.
Sure, thank you.
Yes,
Punitji, you have one question?
One second, on the construction sector, my only reply, I'm not talking from the bank point of view. My only reply is RBI has to revisit the risk weight on the commercial real estate. Now, because I repeatedly talk on risk weight and the capital, because capital is scarce. Today, a bank may be having a huge capital, but tomorrow they don't know. Now, in case of the commercial real estate, even in the lease rental discounting, which is supposed to be a risk mitigated product, despite the company having a better rating, why the risk rate should be 100%? If the regulator is looking at the construction sector as a high risk sector, now then asking the banks whether they are liberal in doing the financing or not, I think the question should be, in this case, should be asked to the regulator.
With this, thanks all the panelists.
No, Ajmera ji,
sorry if I have cut down, if I have cut in between somebody, because just for the sake of, taking little more questions or talks, please excuse me if you felt little hurt about my interruption in between.
Ajmera ji, can I ask one question?
Who's there?
Puneet Chaudhary.
Puneet ji, yeah.
Puneet.
Yeah, we are absolutely out of time, but yes, okay, one last question and then we go for vote of thanks by Manish.
So Ajmera ji, Ajay ji, Milind ji, many thanks and heartiest congratulations to bring all the industry stalwarts. If you actually look at the market share which we captured on this webinar, was more than 40-45% of Indian banking. So thanks for bringing all the stalwarts on this forum and congratulations. My question is like this. During this pandemic, this was a global phenomenon, completely unprepared, unplanned, unpolicized. Given that we are in the situation and hoping that worst is behind, how do we gear up for, because the title of this webinar was surviving reviving and thriving. So I think we are at a stage where we have discussed revival and now we want to thrive. Now, this is a global phenomenon. We have to be in sync with the world. So everywhere in the world, there is CDS, credit default swaps, which is credit derivatives, or credit insurance, as Vimalji talked about. Similarly, interest rate swaps, which we also have in India. So what is the view on credit flow and the FX flow? Like say in Indonesia, this morning, there were 2 large bankruptcies. So we need to be aware about that we are in a connected world. If the world has moved on and is gearing up for survival, revival, and thriving again, we need to gear up. So this is my question and my humble thanks. And apart from JPF, I'm also responsible for banking and finance in JPN.
Thank you. Yeah, can we answer?
So I will answer
it, sir, please.
Yeah, thank you.
Sir, who would like to answer Puneet's question? I mean, rather perception.
I think maybe if I've understood Puneetji's question properly, I think the question is, will the credit flow revive? As you would have seen, the credit growth has still been low. You know, it has slightly inched up, but it is less than 6% year on year. So which is a concern, for the government and RBI, and definitely steps like ECLGS 2.0. I think a lot of disbursements would happen for this ECLGS. As you know, that more than out of 3 lakh crore, what I understand from the Finance Ministry's document, around 2.05 lakh crore has already been sanctioned. Now, disbursement probably is less than that. So there would be more money flowing in as credit growth. So that should reflect in credit growth. We are hopeful we will see higher credit growth in the next 2-3 months. And also over the long term, I think the government's PLI program is going to be in action, which is as the part, as you said, on thriving. The government is very actively encouraging the setting of new units through tax benefits, which has already been announced in the previous budget through these PLI schemes. And with these new units coming in, we are hopeful that term lending will start to happen, which is one of the issues. There was not enough demand for credit, but PLI schemes, as hopefully the businesses will look into it. And once this new investments start kicking in, we will see a steady credit growth from next year. That is our expectation.
Thank you. We have completely run out of time.
Sure.
Thank you very much for sparing your valuable time on this Sunday morning. May I request Manish ji, Mumbai Zone Chief Secretary, for the formal vote of thanks, please. Manish ji.
Yeah, Jai Jinendra, Sadar Pranam. Thank you. Thank you is the least we can say to appreciate the hard work and passion of people behind this highly productive, informative, and insightful session. We would like to thank Mr. Pallav Mohapatra for his view on economy from his diverse and in-depth experience, also guiding us on measures taken by government to boost economy and various schemes introduced by government and bank. My heartfelt thanks to distinguished and esteemed panel of Mr. Suman Chaudhary, Mr. P.R. Rajgopal, Mr. Sanjay Srivastav, Mr. Kamlesh Chaudhary, and Mr. Sunil Chawla. The panelist has given us practical guide to all entrepreneurs to avail this scheme and prepare themselves better. India has, as Mohapatra ji said, India has shown faster recovery and compared to other economies, mainly due to strong support from Indian banks and government of India. Hence, I would like, hence I would also like to thank the entire banking system of India. I would also like to thank our leadership team of Jito, Prathiraji Godari, Joyji Jain, Ganpatji Chaudhary, Shurji Bhuta, Raji Jain, Anilji Jain, Manojji Mehta, Kantiralji, Ajayji Bora, and Nilinji Shah. I'm really sorry if I missed anyone. For every successful event, there is an untiring and dedicated efforts of people in coordination, planning, inviting knowledgeable speaker, etc., etc. I would like to thank the entire team of Jito Professional Forum and Banking Finance Committee of Jito Professional Forum, and special thanks to Siddharthji Bhansali and Ashokji Ajmera for inviting such highly distinguished panelists and arranging such a strong seminar. I would request everyone to give huge round of applause for Jito Professional Forum team. Finally, before I end, I must say that audience has been exceptional, because without a disciplined and extremely engaged audience, a webinar cannot be successful. In fact, we were running out of time, but questions were endless. With this, I would like to thank everyone for sparing their valuable time for this event. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you, Manish.
Thank you,
Jito.
Thank
you, everyone.
Manish.
Thank you.
And thank you, Ajmer.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.